Alright guys, I just found a very easy way to turn your ETH into even more ETH. Now stay with me here. Obviously this isn't going to be you sending me 1 ETH and me giving you back 10. Okay, this isn't one of those scams or schemes. But I'm actually going to explain to you what this method involves, and then of course how to do it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as you may know, within crypto there's something called synthetics. It's essentially a token that derives its value from an underlying asset, or pretty much a token that mirrors another token. Obviously, within crypto, there are multiple different types of synthetics. A great example of this is pretty much kind of like Bitcoin and wrapped Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin is the regular Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, and then wrapped Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is on Ethereum. So it's the ability to kind of trade tokens on different blockchains. That's usually what synthetics are used for. And you can kind of compare this to, for example, how Tether, like USDT, is pretty much equal to the dollar. And they're supposed to be technically backing it by having $1 in reserves for every Tether that they have printed. But you'll see in this case, we're actually going to be looking at a synthetic Ethereum, which is pretty much another version of Ethereum on Ethereum. Let me explain. So Ankr ETH, or aETH, is essentially, as we mentioned, a synthetic version of Ethereum, or Ether, Ankr's version of Ether. Much like any derivative in the crypto space, it's supposed to be the same price as the underlying asset in this case, which is going to be Ethereum. The whole point of it is essentially, once you use Ankr to stake your Ether for ETH 2.0 when that comes out, they give you in return Ankr ETH. It's kind of almost like a placeholder for your Ether, like an IOU of sorts. So you give them, for example, 32 Ethereum or Ether, they give you back 32 Ankr Ether, right? And essentially, as we can obviously tell, it's a 1-to-1 amount staked, right? So in this case, for every 1 ETH you give, you get 1 Ankr ETH in return. So the whole point of this is that Ankr ETH is supposed to grow in Ether value because it contains the principal, obviously, which is going to be the ETH you give them, plus the staking amount, the staking rewards that you get from staking your Ether. That's kind of how staking works. So you might be telling yourself, okay, this entire time you've been pretty much pitching us on staking your Ethereum or Ether. No. That's not what I'm saying. Essentially, yes, you do get extra Ether for staking your regular Ether, right? In this case, I think you actually get about 2.2 ETH if you stake 32, right? So, even though that's still a good amount, right? Where the free Ether comes into play is actually what we're calling arbitrage. So you could stake with them and you'd essentially get your 32 ETH back plus your rewards, which in this case would probably be around 34.2 ETH in total, right? However, at the current prices, if you were to do the whole arbitrage thing, what we were saying, if you buy 32 ETH worth of Ankr ETH, you'll actually get a lot more Ankr ETH instead. I'll actually go ahead and show the conversion up on the screen since it does change because the prices are going to fluctuate. But you'll see that this is a whole amount of extra Ether that you're getting by just buying the Ankr ETH instead of staking it. So not only are you getting the staking rewards, but you're off the bat getting more Ankr ETH for your Ether. So now that we know all this, let me show you how to do it. Before I do show you, by the way, I want to be clear that I haven't done this myself yet. I'm actually going to get into why in a little bit, but I just want to make it clear on how to do it, just in case you already know that you're like, hey, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it anyways. So number one, you have to go to a decentralized exchange like Uniswap or 1inch. They both have Ankr ETH on there. I think actually Uniswap, you might have to add it yourself. So just in case, I'll try to remember to leave down the contract address below, just so you don't end up adding the wrong address and buying another coin. From there, you'll want to swap your Ether for Ankr ETH. It doesn't really matter how much you get per se, but just to be safe, I would get over half an Ethereum worth of it, half an Ether worth of it, because I do know that their staking platform has like a minimum of half an ETH. So just in case, I would get more than half an ETH if you do end up doing it. After you buy it, that's it. You just wait until ETH 1.5 comes out, that phase. Or actually, they actually say right before it. And then you'll be able to get your Ether back plus your rewards. And the cool thing is that while you're waiting for your Ether to obviously to come back to you, while you're waiting for ETH 1.5 to go live, you can actually use your Ankr ETH for DeFi. Essentially, you can lend it, provide liquidity for it, all that other stuff. Just keep in mind that when you do those things, like chances are, like if you're, for example, if you're providing liquidity for Ankr ETH in another pair, you're probably going to get an unbalanced amount. So, but the point is that you can still use your Ankr ETH as if it was ETH for some platforms. So you're putting your regular Ether to use while you're using the derivative version as like your regular ETH. It's really weird. Crypto can be kind of weird, but keep in mind that the only way this actual thing works, like this cheat code per se, if you will, works is if there is a price discrepancy between Ankr ETH and ETH. So if you're watching this video now and the prices are the same, then to be honest, you might as well just stake it with Ankr. There's no difference. But the whole difference is that, again, right now, currently, Ankr ETH is worth less than ETH. I've looked all across the internet and I couldn't find why that was. It just seems like there isn't enough demand for it for some reason. What that shows me is that there's either not enough demand for Ankr ETH, which again still doesn't make too much sense because I know that there are other derivatives of Ether that should equal around the same price as Ether. At the same time, I guess what that also shows is that there might not be enough confidence in the Ankr team to maybe, to actually deliver on their promises of, being able to stake for Ether. I mean, I know they're already doing it, but I guess it seems like people maybe aren't confident enough in the team. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest with you. That's kind of why I wanted to make this video as well. Not only to show you guys that this is an opportunity currently, that looks like an opportunity to me, but at the same time, get your opinions because it just seems a little bit too good to be true. Obviously, we can kind of get into the risks now in this case. Obviously, when you're using crypto, there's no such thing as rewards without risk. In this case, what are the main risks, right? Well, to me, the main risk is the whole thing where it's like, okay, you have your ETH, knowing that you have your ETH, you have the underlying asset, you have the valuable asset. When you're holding Ankr ETH, technically, the only reason it has value is because Ankr is telling you, hey, once this, once ETH 1.5 goes live or whatever, we'll reimburse you with your ETH plus more. That's the only reason why Ankr ETH has value. So obviously the underlying asset is going to be the most important thing at the end of the day. But if we assume that Ankr will go ahead and stay true to their promises and obviously deliver the platform as they already are, then there should be really no problem. And of course, assuming that there's no problem with the contract that they have. I should make that clear as well, because that's another kind of big issue with crypto. But what I will say is that if you are looking for some sort of legitimacy in terms of people staking and actually using them, there has already been 47,000 Ether staked on their platform, and it looks like over 2,000 accounts have actually provided ETH. And I say 2,000 accounts and not 2,000 people because it could just be a couple of people with a couple of different accounts. So, it could be one person with a couple of different accounts. So I just wanted to make that clear. So there are people using Ankr's staking, pretty much called Stkr is what it's called, Ankr staking platform for ETH 2.0 already. So that should provide some sort of validation in terms of seeing if this stuff is legit or not, seeing if Ankr ETH is even backed. So it definitely seems legit from that perspective. And again, the only reason I could see something bad happening is if there's like a bug in the Ankr ETH contract itself, which would be horrible, honestly. Obviously, if there are any more risks that you guys can think of, comment them down below, since I'm only aware of these so far. And yeah, I mean, just to be clear, again, I haven't done this just yet because of the fact that, my whole thing is that I won't be holding my valuable ETH, right? I like to know that I'm holding the desired asset, the desired valuable asset, which is that Ether. So technically, for example, between the time now, let's say between when you do it, for example, let's say we do it now, right? I switch my ETH for Ankr ETH. Between that time and when ETH 1.5 goes live, technically, I'll have an asset that's a lot less valued than that Ether, obviously, because it's not the underlying asset. But at the same time, it just depends if more platforms are willing to add Ankr ETH as like a DeFi tool, right? So, for example, again, we have you have Curve that exists, right? Curve obviously is using Ankr ETH as, I think they have using it as one of their reward pools or something like that. I know Uniswap has it on there obviously already. 1inch does. I think there's a couple of other ones as well that you can like kind of participate with DeFi in. So it's quite obvious that there are already different platforms supporting Ankr ETH in terms of DeFi and all that stuff, which is good. We want to see adoption for this derivative. But at the same time, at the end of the day, like, you're not holding Ether. When you're doing this, yes, you're getting more ETH in return for staking your Ether, but you are, well, not for staking it. Technically staking it. You're technically getting more ETH in return for just buying Ankr ETH, but at the same time, you are going ahead and taking the risk of having whatever else happen. Maybe ETH 2.0 comes out, maybe there's a bug in the contract. It could be anything, really. So obviously, you want to take that stuff with a grain of salt when you do stuff like this. But yeah, I don't know. It's something that I'm going to be looking at still. I'm not sure if I will do it. Obviously, I'll let you guys know if I do. But to think that you're essentially getting your principal ETH plus the conversion amount and the staking reward out of this stuff, it's pretty nuts. Because again, once you buy that Ankr ETH, it's essentially the staking reward is built into that coin. as they mentioned in the website as well. So it's definitely something that I think is worth looking at if you do have, for example, have like a whole bunch of ETH that you kind of want to put to work. You know, just in case, just in case you want to, you're feeling a little antsy, you want to get involved in the staking, because I know a lot of people have been asking me about that. So I thought it made sense to just make this a quick little video. Even if the prices between Ankr ETH and ETH are the same after this video is made, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. You can always just stake your ETH and you still get a good amount of ETH in return. Like, think about it. You stake 32 ETH. Right now, it's right around 90 something thousand, I think, right now. If you end up staking it, right, you get your 2 ETH back in return. That's about almost $6,000 you get, right? Obviously, it depends when ETH 1.5 comes out. I think, as far as I'm concerned, they're looking at a release date of kind of like maybe like a year or so from now. So it's going to be for a while. So I wouldn't get into this thinking, oh my God, tomorrow I'm going to get my extra ETH. No, like, it's not going to be like that. However, at the end of the day, if you do want to just feel comfortable with the fact that you know you're holding ETH, or at least something that's a derivative of it, then this is probably a good scenario to go with, in terms of if you want to go ahead and start staking, you don't know how to do it yourself, and you want to use a more or less decentralized platform to do it with. So those are my thoughts. Obviously, let me know in the comments below if this is something that you might do. And also, I'll also post the original video I got the idea from below as well. I think the video only has like 70 views or something like that. So I got to give the guys credit where credit is due. I just wanted to go ahead and elaborate on everything. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe, and yeah, please. Prices are going up right now, and people are getting scammed left and right. I don't want to see any of you guys being one of those people, all right? See you on the next one. Peace.